Hello, families. Thank you for joining me for today's Tuesday art lesson. Today, we're going to be talking about how we use size and space in our artwork. Can everyone repeat after me? Size and space. Very nice, scholars. So, size and space matter a lot because we need to kind of plan how we're going to use the sizes of different things and the space that we have to make our drawings, sketches, paintings as best as they can be. If we kind of make everything and we don't plan it beforehand, it's very easy to get confused with the sizes and the spaces and kind of our drawings as a whole. So let's talk about size and space today so that in the future we can be better at planning and organizing exactly how we want our creations to come out. Are you ready? Remember, we can always pause or rewind this video if we ever get lost, and make sure that you are following for the end of the video so that you know what the prompt is for turning something in. Okay, friends, let's get started. So, with size and space, size is a little bit easier to think about, and it's a lot of things, or size is something that a lot of our scholars already do, and you might not even know it. So, with size, I'm going to go ahead and read this definition of size right here. Size. Before making our artwork, we have to think about the sizes of what we want to create. Now, remember how I talked about planning before we create something? So that's what I'm talking about when I say we have to think about the sizes. You don't want to go into your drawing or your painting not knowing anything of what you want to do. Remember, we plan it out and we sketch it out. We sketch out the sizes and everything that we want going on so that our drawing is the best that we can make it. So let's think about some of the different sizes of people, places, and things. Let's talk about people first. So, people is a little bit easy to think about because we're people and we see people all the time. So, with people, what matters the most is a height, how tall somebody is. So, I put an A up here because this man right here, he's a parent, he's the adult. So, I put an A for adult. And then I put a C right here for this child. It looks like he's his child. And they go together. We know that this man is the adult because of how tall he is. And we know that this little boy is the child because of how short he is. And usually, adults and parents are much bigger than their children, right? That one is a little bit easier. You guys already do these kinds of things in your sketching and your drawing. You like to make your parents bigger than you, or you like to make your teachers bigger than you, and that's an awesome way to plan and think about your sizes. Now let's turn to something that's a little bit more fun to create. And I'm talking about places. So, places are fun to create because we can have a little bit more freedom with places. So, let's look at this piece of artwork down here. Now, let's think about the type of people or things that would go inside them. So, first, I have my hotel. My hotel is the biggest thing in this small art piece right here. And hotels need to hold a lot of people, don't they? They've got these big doors, they've got a bunch of rooms with all these windows. And because they have to hold so many people, my hotel is the largest thing in this picture. Now let's think about our bookstore. Are books bigger than people or smaller than people? They are much, much smaller than people, right? Especially adults. They are way smaller than adults. So because books are a lot smaller, my bookstore is not going to be big and tall like my hotel. It's going to be short and not so busy, just because books don't take up as much space. They're not as big. So our bookstore does not have to be huge either. The same thing goes for my coffee shop. and my bank. They don't have to hold as many people, so they don't need to be so big. Capiche? Now, let's talk about our last thing. Might be the toughest one. We are going to talk about things. Now, things are all sorts of different sizes. I want us to look at this big square of art. In this big square, we can see a really, really awesome garden, and I want to just circle a few things that I have in this artwork. I'm going to circle the tomatoes, the wagon, this bucket, we'll circle an apple and a pear, and this watering can. Oh, and I want to circle one of these big trees too. So, the reason that I circled all of these things is because I want you to check out how different the sizes are. We have our really big things like our trees, and our wagon is even pretty big, so it can hold all these veggies. And the reason that they're big is because smaller things go inside them, right? Can you imagine if our apple or our pear were as big as our trees or as big as our wagon? That's way too wacky, right? Same thing with our tomatoes. Our tomatoes are small, so they should not be giant, giant fruits and veggies because that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Same thing with our watering can. Our watering can is not that big because it just has one job. So that's why the sizes of things also matters because if we make the size way too big or way too small, then our picture isn't going to look quite right. And it means that we're taking up too much room for stuff that should not be that big or should not be that small. Capiche? Okay, scholars, so now let's try putting together all of these techniques. So, scholars, now that we've put together all of our places, people, and things into our picture, let's see how they fit. So, I'm going to take my pen, and first I want to talk about people. So, the people in this picture, it looks like they are one big happy family. And I know that they're a family because they're all together, and I can see that there's some parents with their babies right here, right? So let's figure out how I knew that they were parents, they were adults, and they were children. Well, our parents, even our grandparents over here on this side, they're tall, aren't they? They're tall, like the mom and the dad in this picture. But who's not tall? I have the little sister that's not tall, little brother, and the baby. We can see the baby is the smallest. We can also see that the baby is being held instead of walking. So remember, with our people, it's a little bit easier to figure out how big and how small they are because we already do that kind of stuff. But now let's turn to the place in this picture. The place in this picture is their house. They are standing right in front of their house. So, their house, I have a question for you. Is it the biggest thing in the picture? If you guys answered yes, you would be totally right. That was a little bit of a tricky question because some people say that the sun was the biggest thing in the picture. But because our house is close to us and close to the family, it becomes the biggest thing. The sun, even though it's super, super big, it's really far away. So that's how the house becomes the biggest thing. Now remember, our house also has to hold all of these people inside it. So if our house is the same size as like the little sister, maybe in the drawing, then that wouldn't work out, would it? I don't think so either. So let's now talk about the things in our picture. The things in our picture, the biggest things actually, are our trees. Now, our trees, they're kind of like an in between height and size, right? They're not as big as our house, but they're not as small as our family either. So our trees are going to be a little bit of a medium height because trees, they can get pretty big, right? But do houses usually have like giant jungle trees that are bigger than houses and buildings and like everything combined? No, right? They usually don't. So our trees are going to be this medium height because the people still need to fit under the trees. They still need to be able to walk by the trees and maybe like not get so confused and still need to be able to see where they're going. So our trees are this medium height for that reason. So now, scholars, we're kind of going to switch gears. We're going to be talking about how we can use space to change the way things look in our picture. Space can change size, which is really, really cool. So let's get moving. So, scholars, when we talk about space, I don't mean like outer space out in the sky or anything like that. I mean like the space that is around you and that is around, or sorry, not around, but inside your drawings and your paintings. So, I'm going to go ahead and read you this little definition of how we can use space. So, space. Making things smaller and higher will make them look like they are far away. Let's pause right there. So, whenever we say that they are smaller and higher, it means that the way you draw them are going to be smaller and higher in your picture. So, let's look at this picture. And I just want to look at top half. So, the top half, see how I cut it in half and I pointed to the top? I want to look at these people in the top half of my picture. Because they are smaller and higher, they look like they are walking away from all these other umbrellas and people underneath them. But if they were walking close or maybe turned around, even, it would make them look like they are walking in another direction. So, because they are so far up on this canvas, on this paper, they look like they are smaller and walking away. So now let's switch gears. Let's figure out how we can make things bigger. So if you make something bigger, like larger, and closer, it will make them look like they are up close to you. To you, the person, not like the other people in the drawing, like you and whoever is looking at this. So now let's look at the bottom portion. Now, the bottom portion has all these really big umbrellas, doesn't it? So, with these big umbrellas, do we see how zoomed in we are to those umbrellas? They are really close to our face, aren't they? And we know that they're close to our face because they made them bigger and put them all the way up close at the very bottom of our artwork. Capiche? This is going to be easier to see in like real life. So in real life, when somebody is walking away from you, you know how they get really, really small as they keep going? And then as they get close and close and closer to you, they get bigger, don't they? So the same thing can work in your drawings. If you want somebody to look or something to look like it is far away, you just got to move it farther away from you and make it smaller. Capiche? And then, remember, if you want something to look like it's right up here, right close, you got to make it bigger and put it closer to the bottom. Okay, scholars, if that was confusing or if anything has been confusing, remember you can always hit that pause button. Capiche? Okay, let's keep going. So I want us to ask the question now, how does this work outside of just art or paintings or sketches? So in real life, The space that we take up changes depending on where we move. And what that means is exactly what we were talking about earlier. So remember how we said when things are closer to us, they look like they're much bigger? Well, our eyes are just tricking us because they didn't get any bigger. Our eyes are just making it so that we can see them better way up close. And same thing when somebody walks far away from us. It looks like they are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but really it just means that our eyes are changing it so that we know how far they are going. Capiche? So now we can even see this in like pictures. So this is a picture I took of a cupcake. Now this cupcake is not very big. We know that cupcakes they fit like inside your hand. But look at how big this cupcake looks in this picture. It takes up so much space and is so close to the face of the person who's watching that it looks really big. Same thing with this picture here. So this is a picture. That's my dad right there. And then that's my dog Daisy. You probably remember her from the last slideshow. But my dad and Daisy look very, very small. But my dad, I know you guys know that Miss Quinones is really, really short, right? My dad, he's like 6 feet tall. So he's a really, really tall man, but you would never know it from this picture because he looks so tiny. Capiche? Okay, scholars. So now let's figure out what our next steps are. So now, scholars, it's going to be your turn to mess with the space and the size of things. So I want you to choose a picture, but you can even take a new picture if you want to, but choose a picture that shows how the space makes certain things look big or small. And then I want you to like explain it. So remember how my picture of the cupcake, let's go back to that picture. How my picture, there it is. Because this picture is so, so close to the camera, it makes my cupcake look really big. So that's how I want you to kind of take your pictures. You can choose, you can take a picture from up close or far away. And you're going to tell me how it makes certain things look big or small. Capiche? So you can say, this thing or this makes it look big or small because hmm. Capiche? Okay, friends, remember if you're in Miss Jensen's class, you can use Flipgrid to turn in your explanation. If you're not in Ms. Jensen's class, you can always use Class Dojo and just upload it. Or if you don't really know how to use Class Dojo, you can turn things in on Google Classroom. And remember, Google Classroom is just for our first and our second grade friends. So if you're in kinder, Class Dojo is going to be your best bet. Okay, families, I hope you had fun learning about this, and I can't wait to see all your pictures turned in. Let me know if you have any questions, and remember, you can always go back if you need to re-evaluate something. Okay, I'll talk to you everybody later. Bye.